Well, good afternoon, YWCA viewers. This is Series 1, Episode 4 of The Butterfly Effect, sponsored by Club 1888, a YWCA volunteer program. This is an empowerment series where volunteer hosts interview inspiring women in our community. And today we have Angela Tatem. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you. So, Angela, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, thank you. And thank you so much, Kathy and Carrie, for inviting me today. I'm really excited to be a part of this series. So I'm a personal finance educator, and I teach college students how to manage their money in a simple way that leads to financial independence. And the name of my small business is U Inc., Wealth Education Services. And we came up with that name, U Inc., because we equip students with the mindset and the tools to manage their personal finances with the same intentionality as if they were managing a business. Statistics show that 70% of college students report that they are stressed out about their finances, and 30% of college students report that they are neglecting their academic coursework due to financial worries, which sounds like a lot of the population outside of college as well. So we know students may be overwhelmed already with their academic coursework, their internships, their sports, their jobs, their work study jobs, and everything else that they have going on in college. So our educational program, it focuses on the practical steps that students should take with the money that they have coming in or that they will have coming in the future, rather than being a theory-heavy program. So for example, a typical program that we offer, it educates students on defining financial success for themselves, because of course that looks different for every person. Also acquiring a wealthy mindset, and learning how to create and live off of a monthly household budget, on learning to save and invest for the future, taking advantage of the eighth wonder of the world, which is compound interest, learning how to get out of debt and stay out of debt, also understanding credit and how credit works. And last but not least, learning how to create a legacy, which may include making an impact on your community by financially giving, whether that be, to your family, to your neighborhood, your community, a not-for-profit in your community, a foundation. Maybe it means starting a not-for-profit, starting a foundation, or giving to one. And also teaching the next generation, so your children, your children's children, any young people in your life, teaching them about how money works, and wealth building. So saying all that, ultimately, students graduate from college equipped with a high-level understanding of money management and financial literacy compared to their peers.
That sounds wonderful. So, Angela, tell us a little bit about how did you end up in this field of educating young people about managing finances? What motivated you to do this?
Right. So I resigned from my position as the director of community outreach at Union College at the very beginning of 2020. Actually, I think it was January 3rd to be exact. And I was entering my 17th year working at the college when I resigned. And I resigned for two reasons. But I was really fortunate working at Union College. Of course, I met Carrie Wolf, and I was very supported by all of my colleagues in the Student Affairs Division. I had an excellent supervisor, and I really loved developing relationships with the community outreach or community-based organizations, the different leaders, the different volunteer coordinators, and the different reps and not-for-profits in Schenectady. I really enjoyed working with them and sending college student volunteers to their organization. And of course, my absolute favorite part working at the college was developing relationships and working alongside college students and mentoring them, and of course staying connected with them after they graduate. So anyway, while I was working at Union, my husband and I, we met a couple who are one of our money mentors, and they were teaching us everything that we didn't know about money. My husband and I were very financially illiterate. We didn't know one thing about handling money, but they were teaching us so many valuable lessons about getting our financial house in order. And a lot of the college students that I was working with were sharing with me their fears around money and the different feelings that they were having about money issues. So they were stressed out about money. They felt clueless and confused about personal finances. So informally, my husband and I, we would sit down with these students and we would teach them everything that we were learning from our mentors. So we were sitting down with students, helping them develop a budget, helping them save, helping them develop a plan for getting out of debt, helping them open up a brokerage account so they could start investing. And word kind of spread among the students. So we were, reaching a lot of different students through word of mouth to teach financial literacy. And because of that, I knew that there was a real need for financial literacy education at the college level. So when I resigned, it was actually for two reasons. One was to focus more on my passion, which would be having the opportunity to teach financial literacy full time. And I really believe that this is my new calling and my purpose, to teach financial education. And the second reason was because I really craved the time to be able to spend freely with my young son. I have two sons. My oldest is 2 years and 8 months. And then I also have a 2-month-old. And when my oldest son was born, he was diagnosed with some health issues. So we knew before he was born that he was going to have some health issues. And the doctors told us, that we should expect a 4-month NICU stay. And so when I heard that, I was thinking, I really want to have extra time to be home with my son because I was a first-time mom. And I asked my supervisor if I could take unpaid leave for a year. So I did do that. I took a year off from work, and I really loved being home with him, doing all the fun stuff that you can do with really young kids, like going to the library and the museum and different things like that. And so I did go back to work after the 1-year mark, and I stayed working for several months. Actually, I think it was 7 months to be exact. And I was just really missing the experiences that I was having with him. So having that time to spend with him also drew me to leave my position at Union. And whenever I tell people that story about taking the year off, a lot of times people will mention that that's an extreme luxury and a privilege to be able to take unpaid time from your job. And I totally agree with that. I totally believe that is a privilege. I understand and recognize that. But I also like to share that never would have been a consideration for my family if my husband and I were not living on the principles that we teach others. So that's another reason why I deeply believe in the work that we're doing. I think it's very transformative, the power of financial education, because we've seen the difference in our own lives being dedicated to these principles.
Well, exactly. So, so what I'm wondering is, why is there such a dearth of financial literacy? What have you discovered? Why are there so many young people out there that just don't know how to manage money?
Yeah, and I think it's so many different reasons. A lot of times when my husband and I speak, we share our personal stories about our different backgrounds. And some people, it was just never taught. And a lot of time, and that's really very popular. For one of the reasons is it was not taught in the home. Financial education is not something that's offered widely in school. So when you go to school, you learn a lot of great things, but a lot of times you're not learning how to manage money. And it's not really offered at the college level too much either. So it's not taught formally. I think that's one of the biggest reasons. And sometimes it's not, or a lot of times it's also not taught at home because, our parents weren't taught it either. So we're kind of, keeping up with that cycle. And then sometimes, we're still learning, and some of us are learning from the car salesman who's trying to sell you a car, or from somebody else who doesn't have your best interest at heart. So sometimes you're getting misinformation, or someone has ulterior motives, trying to sell you something, and they might be giving you financial advice that benefits them, but not really benefiting you.
Mm-hmm. Angela, do you see any type of disparity between young men and young women when it comes to understanding finances?
I would say that from my personal experience, we definitely see more women coming to our classes. We actually have a boot camp going on right now, and it's all women that showed up. A few people registered that haven't showed up yet, but all of the women have showed up. And a lot of times when we do our classes, the overwhelming majority of the students are women. So I don't have any formal statistics to give, but that has been our experience.
So let's talk about women for a minute. So you've mentioned that you were able to take some time off to be with your children, to find kind of that work-life balance. In your classes that you have, are you able to talk to women about that, about how do we find that balance between family, work, and then making it all work financially?
Yes, yes. I love talking to college students, especially just because they're so young. And so I tell students my reason for wanting to have financial stability, to have that choice of spending more time with my son, taking time off from a job. And so I tell students, you don't know what you're going to want in the future. Maybe you do. Some students do. And some students, you might change your mind once you become a parent, or you might change your mind. You wanted to do something and then you decide you want to take a different career path. And so money makes all of that possible. A lot of times people are in, toxic work situations, or they're in toxic personal relationships or romantic relationships. You just never know what the future is going to hold. And so we just encourage students, women, you want to be prepared for what life is going to throw at you. And even if you do all the things, that you were taught to do and you're making good decisions, things are still going to come up in life. So that's why we talk about the importance of having, an emergency fund, and having just some money where you can pivot your life and go in a different direction, because it's very hard to do that if you don't have the financial capability to make those decisions. And sometimes it doesn't have to be, a negative situation where you're in a toxic, work environment and you want to take time off to look for a job, but you still need money to pay those bills. Sometimes it's a great, golden opportunity that's coming up, but you still need money, to travel, to get there, and to move, and to find a place to live. So we just tell students, you just want to be expected, or you want to be prepared for what life is going to give you. Murphy's Law, if something can go wrong, it will. At some point in time, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter, if you have a high net worth or a low net worth, something is going to happen and you're going to need some cash to help pay for that or to get through it. And so we just tell students, you want to have some margin in life between you and Murphy, and you just need money to make other things happen.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you also mentioned that you had financial mentors, is how you referred to them. They were folks in your life early on that helped you and your husband to understand the value of financial management. How important is that for anyone, whether it's a college student or anyone throughout their life, in terms of finding mentors?
Yeah, mentors are so important. And I personally have an army of mentors. One of my favorite scriptures from the Bible is Proverbs 11:14. And it says, where there is no wise guidance, the people fall. but in the abundance of wise counselors, there is victory. So I definitely love that verse because I have the abundance part down packed. One of my mentors speaks of the importance, especially for women, to have a personal board of directors for their lives. And I'm very fortunate that I do have that among my mentors. I have specific women that I can go to for wise counsel in almost every area of my life. I have women who are my marriage mentors, our money mentors, family mentors, career mentors. And I'd like to name them if I can. Starting off with my mom, Cynthia Blair. She's, my first mentor, and she's taught me so much. And also Dr. Gretchel Hathaway, who first hired me when I first started working at Union College, and now she serves as the vice president of diversity, inclusion, and equity at Franklin and Marshall College. Dr. Deidre Hill Butler, she's a sociology professor and a DEI leader also at Union College. Kathleen McLean, she is the CEO of the McLean Group. Marion Porterfield, who's a Schenectady City Council member, and she was also my Girl Scout troop leader when I was a young girl. My godmother, Linda Davis, who pastors a church in Albany, and Joyce McLeod, who is a co-founder of Impact Athletics, which is coming soon to Half Moon, and Charmaine Trutling, who is one of my personal finance mentors. And all of these women have given me so much wisdom in all areas. They have prayed for me, they've prayed with me, they have mentored me as a professional, they've helped me personally, they've really inspired me to live life by design. Even when I was wondering, should I leave my job full-time and to pursue a small business, I got so much encouragement from them. Also, when my son was born and taking the time off, just for that year, I was supported by them as well. So it's really been a blessing to have this army of wise women to do life with.
Talk a little bit more about that statement you just made. I love it. Live by design.
Yeah. So really, when we're speaking about money, we always tell people it's not about the money itself. Like, the goal is not to have money just for the sake of having money. What does that money represent? It represents choices and options. You might get a phone call from someone with the opportunity of a lifetime, but we can't always take that if we're not financially prepared. So we want to be in a position where you can be very strategic about the way that you're living your life, and having money makes it easier. Of course, it doesn't mean like just because you've reached financial independence, life is going to be easy, because life is still life. But you can afford the Tylenol when you have money. And so really, we're just telling people, what does money represent? Ask yourself, if I didn't have any debt, if I had a fully funded emergency fund, if I had a pile of money in an investment account, what choices would I make? Because a lot of times people make choices where they're just reacting to what's happening in their life. But we can be proactive when we have that financial security. And of course, it's a privilege. So we're trying to help people do everything in their power to get there. And we always tell people financial independence is the goal. But of course, not everyone is going to reach that particular state. But if you're doing the things that we teach, you're going to be in a better financial situation. And there's a quote that says, I think it's for kids because I've seen it in a children's book, and it said, reach for the moon. And even if you don't, reach the moon, you will land among the stars. I don't know who says that. Maybe someone else knows. But we teach the same thing with money. The goal is financial independence. Work towards that. Even if you don't meet it, you're still going to be in a better position financially. And that's still a good place to be.
Okay, that's wonderful. So with all of the mentors that you've had, you've listed some fabulous people. I know several of the people that you mentioned. So it's just wonderful to hear their names and hear how they've impacted your life. What is the best advice? If you could narrow it down, what's the best advice that you've received so far?
I would say my best advice is Oh, my best advice is to say no to lifestyle creep. And I say this a lot to, I don't remember who first told us this, but I've heard it said in different ways. And especially when I'm talking to college students who are around the age of 21, they might be college seniors, they're getting ready to go into the real world. I always tell them, say no to lifestyle creep. And what is lifestyle creep? It's basically when you receive a raise, or maybe you get a job where previously you didn't have a job, and you immediately start upgrading your lifestyle. So for example, a person may get a promotion at their job that comes along with a raise, and they immediately give themselves the green light to upgrade their lifestyle. They might upgrade their current apartment to a luxury apartment. And the thing is, they don't make traction with their financial goals, because now their income is equal to their expenses, and sometimes their expenses exceed their income. So in order to make traction with our finances, we have to intentionally be living below our means. So if you are a younger person, it's easier for you to do this, especially if you are a college student. You've already been living like a college student for 21 years, so it's easier not to upgrade your lifestyle right away. So we tell people, you want to make sure that you hit some financial milestones before you start upgrading your life.
Oh, that is fantastic advice, really, for anyone at any point, I think, in their lives. That's wonderful. So we are just about out of time. Angela, how can people reach you?
My website is U Inc. Wealth Education Services. We have a social media page, so we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. My email address is Angela, Angela, at uincwealth.com.
Wonderful. Well, it's been a pleasure meeting you and chatting with you today.
Yes, I had a wonderful time, and it was great to meet you as well.
And thank you for all you're doing and all the advice you're sharing. And I'm sure that folks, when they come out of your classes, feel empowered.
Yeah, they do. And I really appreciate having the opportunity to be on the journey with women as they are achieving or reaching for financial independence.
Thank you.
Thank you.